when we think about making consumers a deal, which is what was released, and going lean, what is interesting and what is actually happening is that publishers are putting themselves on a diet. And this is really, really important. And what we're finding is that through their experiences, as you saw with Pilar and Reuters, what they're discussing is that they want to make sure they're putting the end user, their customer, first. So how do we then transfer our knowledge into that? Well, user experience is a tradable currency today. It's actually happening. Publishers are actually taking a look at some of this data and they're saying, look, this is the best possible experience we can actually offer you to the marketers and the buy side. This is the law of diminishing returns. It's more ads equals reduced customers, right? You're actually adding up all this stuff on the page. And sometimes consumers are getting angry and they're turning away. At the same time, publishers and marketers, their brands and the integrity of both of their brands in the eyes of the end user is utmost important. This is why we're having these conversations. Okay, and then how do we then translate that to our ability to monetize? Well, block ads leads to loss in site earnings, right? That's pretty rational. Better user experience equals more revenue. We know this is happening because other metrics like time on site, bounce rates, they're actually pulling in the favor. We also know that there's a reduction of bandwidth costs. When we talk about viewability, if we're actually firing these ad requests that cannot be seen, that's just spend that goes out the door. Okay, so publishers are taking a hard look at some of these data points, and we're encouraging them to continue on. Large publishers, as I said, are going on a diet. What is the value exchange for the audience? Well, create better customer messaging, and it's part of the deal. One of the interesting scenarios that we've noticed, and everyone's been reading the same public stuff that we've been reading, but one of the interesting scenarios is that when a publisher does engage the end user and experiments with that message, in some cases they're finding that consumer will convert and turn off the ad blocker. In some cases they won't. But unless you start having that conversation, you won't know. Okay. Then finally, when it comes to the sales strategy of this, setting those ground rules, what we're just finding is that some of the publishers, more experienced publishers, are getting their arms around the file size, the number of tags, the creative quality, the ad relevance, and video, maybe it's skippability. These are the types of bullets that we're finding in the insertion orders and the IOs, and some of the conversations are happening. And obviously, from our perspective, we want to make sure that the publishers and the entire supply chain are putting the user, from the Tech Lab's perspective, putting the user first. What is the Tech Lab doing? To follow up on what Alana and Joe had discussed earlier this morning, we're providing you guys the tools. We're working with the IAB research team. We're putting together a lot of the guidelines and best practices along with the rest of the IABs. And then we're taking a hard look at some of the scoring mechanisms to see if we can find the KPIs that are matching up to what consumers are looking for. How can you help? Well, practice implementing the deal. Others are actually practicing and implementing lean. You're reading about them. You've seen the same publishers actually exercising this now. And frankly, the other thing we keep forgetting is we should start celebrating advertising as a way of undermining and accessing free content on the internet. Right? It's one of the basic core competencies of why we built all these websites in the World Wide Web in the first place.